This segment is brought to you by JigMasters Jigs. When in doubt, get the jig out. Go to JigMasters.com and use promo code PNF20 and save 20% off your next jig order today.
Welcome back, everybody. Thank you for tuning in to the final cast for another week episode. I'm Brad.
And I'm Josh.
Today we are going to talk about different bodies of water me and Josh have fished. I know we both of us have fished some newer waters this year, and I just wanted to get like our opinions on them. Kind of, I guess, review the lakes and the rivers that we've fished across the country. So, I guess we can get started. And first, I wanted to ask you about your Cherokee Lake trip. I've never been there, and it looked like you guys had a really good time out there. So, yeah, let's hear a little bit about that lake.
So my wife and I went to Gatlinburg for my birthday. And it was supposed to my wife had it aimed to be she made it seem like it was a trip, like a fishing trip, but really when it came down to it, it wasn't. We were going to take our kayaks down, and then we decided not to. And I was trying to figure out places to fish. The places weren't as close as I thought they were. And then I kind of got freaked out, which I'm glad we didn't bring them, because where our cabin was a really, it was on the side of the mountain sort of. So the driving was like a 1-lane road. It was super, super curvy, like a lot of 90-degree kind of turns and stuff like that. And with my Dodge and that trailer, it would have been kind of a pain in the butt. So I'm glad we ended up not taking them, but at the same time, I wish we would have. We would have had to stay somewhere different. So, but what we had trouble doing is finding a guide service. I called 6 or 7 guide services I know it was last minute, so it's kind of partly on our fault. But I just wasn't getting anybody calling us back. And we were trying to do just strict bass fishing. I wanted to go catch some smallmouth somewhere out there, or, somewhere in Tennessee. And Cherokee Lake is fairly close. What was the other one?
Douglas?
Yeah, Douglas and Cherokee.
Yeah, those are right next to each other.
Yeah, they're not very far apart. And so we ended up finally getting a call back. And when my wife I started to get frustrated, and I was like, forget it. And she's like, no, I really want to take you fishing. So anyways, long story short, we ended up with a striper guide service on Cherokee, and it really actually wasn't very successful. We maybe only caught 3 fish. I think I caught 1 and my wife caught 2. And it stinks because the guy put the fish back before I even got a picture with the one that I caught. It was funny because we were sitting there. It was decent. It was they're fun to catch. We were catching them though on live bait, using alewives, which is just a type of shad. And I think, what kind of shad is that specifically called? I can't remember the name of it. Anyways, they're kind of long and skinny. And, I learned that stripers are, those are very hard fish to not catch necessarily, but to track down. Yeah, they move a lot. They're constantly just on the move. So we would get small they weren't schooled up really big. They were kind of in small groups of 5 or 6. Mm-hmm. And they would come and they'd show up. And the guy had Pantopics Live type of fish finder,
the live scope.
Yeah, like a live scope style. Yeah. And so you would see them kind of show up in this area, and then they'd just be gone. And we'd have to move around 5 or 10 feet here or there, and they'd be there and then they are gone. And then the school itself would move on. So it was a lot of fun. The lake is gorgeous. I really love Tennessee lakes. I like big rocks like that, on the shorelines, that sort of thing. And just the hills and the woods, and just the backdrop is a lot it's a lot nicer than what we have here in Ohio. Everything's so kind of relatively flat in our immediate area. There's places that in Ohio, especially towards the south and the east, that are more scenic. But the problem is a lot of our lakes are man-made, and they kind of tend to be just, I hate to say this, but they're just kind of garbage, man. They just get a lot of runoff stuff. And I think it's just they're overpressured. There's people keeping fish that they shouldn't be, caught. So I think everything just gets hit super, super, super hard. And it's just kind of, it is what it is. And you can attest to it, man. Bass fishing in Ohio is very, very hard to do. And find really good, consistent places unless you're up in Erie or you really, really know the body of water and you've been fishing it for years. So for me, that's not the case. I haven't been fishing lakes like that for years. There's a few river systems here in Dayton, the Dayton area that I am comfortable with like that, where I can track down fish. But even to that, man, there's certain seasons that I lose them and then I have trouble kind of locating back where these fish end up being, especially in the summertime, because they I think smallmouth bass get real hard to catch in the summertime because they start getting in such fast water that you got to be able to just plop baits in front of them. And it's just tough to do without kind of getting yourself in dangerous situations, I think. But it was Cherokee Lake is actually known, not well known. Actually, it's not well known. But it is got really good smallmouth bass fishing. So I'd love to kind of go back out there again and give it a shot. It kind of, it's the kind of lake that reminds you sort of Dale Hollow, just not to the extent as big as Dale Hollow, but the kind of features of what you're fishing are kind of be similar. I think you're going to have big rock ledges, that sort of thing. So, but when we were down there, they had actually, and it was my birthday's on August 22nd, and we went that weekend, and they had already started drawing that lake down, which I thought was kind of crazy because we in Ohio don't do it that soon, I don't think. Not that I've noticed.
I think the first week of November is when we draw down.
Yeah.
Somewhere around there.
Yeah.
I know it's real late in the season.
I don't know if it's necessarily to kind of counteract, I guess, a rainy season, to allow water, maybe in those areas that it's known to get a lot of rainfall. But I know that we don't do that. He's like, I started doing it last week because you could see like a good 6 feet in height of the bank line from where it changed so drastically. It's kind of barren and it's got that weird clay dirt look to it. But it's a beautiful lake. Being out there made me want to move down to Tennessee and get to Ohio really badly. So even though we didn't do very well. So
hey, that same weekend you were down there, I think you were heading up back home and I was going down that same weekend.
Yeah, you ended up there too, right?
Yeah,
at the same exact lake.
Well, I didn't get to fish, but we got to walk the Cherokee Lake Dam and check all that area out. We stayed with my wife's sister, and she took us out walking around the lake. It is a beautiful lake, man. Very rocky, but yeah, like you said, the lake was super low. I know the guy we were with, my sister-in-law's boyfriend, he was telling me, like, yeah, look up in these trees. The water was just in those trees like a few days ago. I'm like, wow, that's crazy. Because it, like you said, it was probably 10 or more feet low,
Right.
So, but yeah, those rocks. I got to walk down on the bank and check out the rocks. It's like this sand rocky mix with really thin. I don't know, like I guess you call them the cleavage of rock that broke off. But yeah, that was a cool lake. Lots of islands too. I didn't expect that.
Yeah.
Did you get to fish around any of those islands?
Yeah. Actually, the main spot that we were fishing was a point off of a small little island. To be honest with you, though, I'm not even sure. Yeah, most of that it was an island, and it just appeared to be a lot bigger than it actually is because of the water being down. But it's kind of cool though. I mean, people stay out on those islands. You know, they had their boats tied off out there and pulled up and you know and set up hammocks and stuff in the trees. I was like, dude, that's awesome. I'd like to get out and do that. So,
Did you guys come across any grass patches or
but
anything?
I couldn't. No. He had guys that were out there fishing that he's buddies with, and he kind of help him out for guide servicing like that. So like if they get on fish, they'll be like, hey, they'll call him up and be like, come out. They had radios and stuff, and they'd be like, come out over to, you know, they had funny nicknames for all these areas. Like there was this huge sweet house that looked like the front of it looked like a Bass Pro, and that's what they call it. They're like, "Come out to Bass Pro, man. The fish are out here." So that was like a spot that they knew to check. It was called Bass Pro, but you know, it was a cool place. I'd like to go back eventually. You know, I'd like to really kind of explore Tennessee in general overall, and kind of get down there a lot next year. I'm even thinking about trying to go there this this winter. I heard smallmouth fishing down in the Tennessee side of Dale Hollow is crazy on with smallmouth. Like it sucks weather-wise, but I heard like if you can get on them, you'll catch some big ones and stuff. But
I imagine they're pretty deep right now too, down there.
Yeah, probably. You know.
So that's another one we can talk about here in a few minutes.
Yeah, and I don't know though that when we say deep to us, I think a lot of times we think like super, super, super deep, like, you know, 50, 60, 70. But then we got to realize that that's like 2 states south of us, and their weather just isn't as crazy. Their water temperatures aren't going to be nearly as low as what ours are. So we don't have to necessarily look as crazy deep as what we might think in our heads when we first think about that. But yeah, it's definitely a cool place. I mean, you know, like we went on our trip to Dale Hollow. You want to talk about that real quick? We'll talk about Dale Hollow and what's like. You've been there several times, right? You go there on a family trip almost all the time. If I remember correctly.
I go with my wife's cousins and her uncle every year. Yeah. That's during the springtime though. So when we went early fall, it was completely different than what I'm used to. But like you mentioned before, the lake drawdown was happening at Dale Hollow that time of the year as well. So that lake was probably down 10, 15 feet, I'm guessing.
Easy.
Yeah.
I would say good 10, 15.
Yeah, that all the coves that we usually fish in the springtime for the spawn, no water back in those at all.
Yeah.
So when we arrived, I was like, what? This is crazy. I wasn't expecting that, you know?
Yeah.
So I know drawing down the lake, it exposed all the weed patches that like you can't normally see because they're under the water 10, 15 feet. So that is what we targeted when we were fishing there, and we had success all weekend. But that lake, also a really rocky lake, on top of being grassy in a lot of spots. So I just think it's like the perfect mix, honestly. You get in the middle of one of those coves and it's really grassy, and then you get towards the edges of the banks and it's rocky. You got probably 20, 30 yards between bank and the middle of the cove where it's just like rock and then the grass transition. So it's awesome. I didn't know.
Right.
What did you think about that lake first time being there?
I loved it. I mean, I guess really when it came down to being at Cherokee and being at Dale Hollow this year, it was just different for me. And with it being different, it was exciting because I hadn't fished water like that. It was a learning opportunity. So I kind of try to take full advantage of fishing a different style. Like I know you and Justin committed to fishing in that marina like crazy and fishing weeds, but we've been doing that for years, You know what I mean? Because we fish like that's how a lot of our ponds and our lakes are around here, real weedy, and we don't even have really nice, good lakes, even vegetation wise, like weed wise, and like all of our stuff here, unfortunately, tends to get ruined from farm runoff types issues and all that stuff. So like the vegetation growth here is, in a sense, I guess you could call abnormal. So like you either get this fluctuation of where it's way too much or where it's not enough. It's really weird. And we can attest to seeing how Kaiser reacts like that. There's been times you're like, Kaiser fished awesome, and it was like chock full of weeds, and it was a pain in the butt, but like you could pull big bass from it. And then it would lighten up, and then it would be bad, and then it would be chock full of it again, and then it would be bad, and then it would lighten up, and it'd be good. And it's like, and in that place, and as a lot of Ohio lakes are, especially on our side of the state, and especially Grant, St. Mary's down. I don't know how it is northeast, but there seems to be this line of where St. Mary's is in a big circle in this corner of this, the state, where we have so many problems with algae blooms and that sort of thing. And I know a lot of lakes have that problem, but it's just, I think when Ohio's coupled with the pressure that it gets and kind of the poaching issues that there are out there, that it just makes it tough to fish here. So when I went to Dale Hollow, I was just excited to be out of the state of Ohio, and I made it a point to fish a different way that I've never had opportunity to fish, and that was fishing ledges, like big steep drop-offs like that. We don't have that too much here. We have it here and there, but I was like, in Dale Hollow, it's one of those places it's easy to find them because they're so frequent. You're looking at that ledge. I was like, come over here, Brad. I caught a fish over here, and it was awesome. It was like, it was just 6 feet from that water, the actual bank line where the water's meeting up to the bank. And then there was that like 15-foot drop, boom, just straight down. And what was cool was all the timber. That's what I thought was really super cool, was you had timber laying down those ledges like that, like not where it's like a lay down where you got the back end of the, root ball next to the bank, and it kind of just comes out gradually and you can see all the sticks. This thing's just straight down in the water, like upside down matchsticks, man. It was cool. And so I had a lot of fun fishing like that. I kind of learned that I found 3 good schools of what I thought were bass. Were they? I'm not 100% sure. I caught a smallmouth out of one of them. But I kind of learned that if I find something like that, then I need to just settle down and start changing baits out.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Instead, I would just I would fish it. And if I didn't catch anything in like 20 casts of what I had, then I would move on. And I think what I needed to do was settle down, figure out what I'm looking at, because they stayed there. You know what I mean? They only moved like a little bit, like just maybe, 15 yards up and down this point. Basically, they were points,
They were probably chasing bait, I'm guessing then.
Yeah. Oh yeah, because I could see the clouds of bait fish, and then I could mark, especially I could see it on my side view real well. Also, that's what really set it off to me, that I was seeing schools of fish, and not just like structure, like timber or something like that. But because I could see the clouds and I could see the fish like in that little black dark area of your side view. Or you haven't seen it yet. You will. You're gonna love it. And so when you can actually, I can see the fish like in my side vision, like you can see them in side view, but when they're on the like away from you, they appear as like white, like kind of not dots but white spots, and you can a lot of times tell that that's a fish because it'll have a black spot underneath it, and it's the shadow that's created from the sonar, and like that those shapes will match up in a sense, sort of. But these were actually in the like immediate area of my kayak, like on the sides of me. So that was kind of cool, like seeing it like that. But
You're right on top of.
yeah, yeah. And so that was something I had to, I'll need to work on and like that I learned out there. But it was that place is gorgeous, man. The only complaint I could have was just getting the bugs at night. But I mean that's gonna be anywhere. So I can't really complain too much. It comes with the territory. As much as I hate mosquitoes and I wish they'd all burn in hell, but I just, you have a passion for kayak fishing or fishing in general, you're gonna have to deal with them. So
yeah, see, the boat traffic wasn't too bad on that lake either until Saturday, right?
yeah. Saturday it picked up, and it really even overall wasn't bad. It's just we happened to have the bass tournament that was going on, and that's gonna happen probably. That's probably a week every weekend type of deal. So
yeah, definitely. I know we go the Thursday through Sunday when we go in the springtime, and it's usually not that bad. But I will say the time we went in the fall, it wasn't bad either. It was pretty good. But another thing I was going to say about that, a lot of people think of that lake as like the hybrid striper and smallmouth fishing. They overlook the largemouth fishing there. But I understand why. The largemouth fishing's like amazing there.
yeah.
I always have really good success there. We catch some good ones. So
You guys killed it, man. I laughed watching Justin catch like 5 fish within 50 yards of the ramp, like in the most high traffic spot possible, which is the one spot that all boats are coming in and out of where the boat ramp is. And Justin literally is pulling fish after fish after fish out, and there's nothing wrong with that, like but in my head, I was like, I wanted to do something different while we were down there and fish in a different style. And, we've fished Kaiser for however many years, and that's basically the style of fishing that you guys did. And even Justin said it. He's like, "Oh, this is awesome. This is right up my alley." Because he knows how to fish Kaiser so well. He knows how to fish this huge, masses of weeds everywhere,
we wanted to go down there to catch a PB.
Yeah. Honestly, if that lake hadn't been drawn down, I think we would have done a lot better overall. Well, let me scratch that.
I would
don't think we would have done better necessarily numbers wise, because I think the fish would have been spread out more. But I think we wouldn't have been concentrated to the same spots, and we would have probably potentially had more of an opportunity to pull a bigger fish out. You know what I mean? Somewhere. But I don't know that we could say the numbers. You guys killed it back there. Like numbers wise, like, yeah. I mean, I was just like, yeah. And I didn't catch that many fish. I think I caught maybe 10 through the whole weekend.
I don't think I caught anything under 14 inches, and they were all fat.
Yeah, they were.
So that's a really healthy body.
Well, actually, what's funny though? Did you notice how fat the largemouth were, but those smallmouth you and I caught were not like that at all?
Yeah.
They weren't fat at all. They were long. Like mine was real long. Yours was real long, real long and skinny. But
I did fish that lake a little differently. Like I'm not good at fishing points or anything or ledges, but I did catch a few smallmouth off of points while we were there. So that was cool.
I think the smallmouth, especially the sizable ones, were still further closer to the main lake. I think if we were to keep hitting points on our way out to where the main part of the lake is, or where the Tennessee, because I read that the Tennessee-Kentucky line is, the points in that area are really, really good. And I think if we would have kept moving out, but it's crazy to think it doesn't look like you're that far back there, but we were. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like when you're in a kayak, that's far. Like,
oh yeah.
Especially if you're paddling. So
me and Justin paddled from the marina down 2 coves, which was Casey's. I forget what it's called, Casey's Creek or something. I can't remember. Something like that. But that was, I think it was a little bit over a mile from the marina. And we paddled all the way down there, fished that whole cove, and paddled all the way back. And that's where I was catching the smallmouth off the points. So makes sense.
Yeah, I think if we would have kept going further and further out, like our chances of catching smallmouth would have increased, and probably catching the largemouth would have decreased because I think
Yeah.
the further out we would have gotten, we would have dealt with less vegetation. But dude, I'll tell you what was kind of crazy was seeing the vegetation on the sides of those drops, especially on the left side when we were
Yeah.
fishing. That was
Where
kind of
Jay
cool.
was fishing.
Yeah, where Jay was fishing, like
Yeah.
I was like, I hadn't seen that before like that. I mean, I've seen like little examples of it, but not like to the extent of like a drop that's occurring like that, and it's got vegetation on the side of it all the way down. So
Yeah,
that was
it
pretty cool.
like the width of that vegetation wasn't much either, because you would get 20 yards away from the bank and like it would stop and then it'd be rock
Yeah,
on the. It was cool.
yeah,
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 I never noticed that before because I like when I go with them, I don't use my own boat and electronics, so
yeah,
I've never seen the bottom at all on electronics until this past year.
yeah,
So that was cool. That was a real cool trip. Um,
yeah. It'll be interesting. I'd like to do that trip in the springtime. Like that'd be fun to go.
we should go. We should go.
So
It's not a hard
definitely
trip, dude.
go catch like the pre-spawn. Oh god, that'd be badass.
Yep, that would be awesome. I don't know where the smallmouth spawn in that lake, but I'm sure we could figure it out.
I mean, even like, but like you said, dude, largemouth fishing is pretty extraordinary there, and you know, for a few kayak anglers that aren't like some super awesome bass fishermen, you know what I mean? Like we did pretty well, like when you look at the
Yeah,
overall weekend. So I can't imagine if we got some more time out there now that we kind of even seeing that lake drawn down kind of opens your eyes to seeing what you're seeing on sonar really is. Like, you know,
yeah,
with those trees would have looked really weird, I think, visually on sonar until you actually saw what was happening with them, that they're literally laying straight down, you know.
yeah.
So, but what else you want to talk about, or what other bodies of water you want to talk about?
I was gonna ask you like your all time favorite lake, and unless it was a Dale Hollow. I know you mentioned some bodies of water up in Michigan before. I didn't know if that
Well,
was your favorite.
I didn't fish Michigan this year, but I had a lot of fun. We went to Michigan, but I had more fun in the river than we did at the lakes. The lakes that we fished in Michigan were giant bowls, basically, that were like kind of wide open. So when we went up there, it ended up being we had some weather still going on because we went in early June, like the first or second weekend in June, and it actually was still dropping into the mid 40s at night and getting to like in the 70s during the day, like low 70s maybe. So it was actually kind of slightly chilly, and we dealt with some not we didn't have a lot of rain, but it was still really windy. So we ended up trying to fish Higgins Lake, and like we spent maybe 45 minutes to an hour out there and realized we just didn't have the gear to be able to fish it in kayaks. So at the time nobody had an anchored wizard or anything like that, you know, or you know, we had some people had anchors and stuff like that, but even they were still kind of having trouble staying still because where the area that we were trying to fish that day had a sandy bottom. So as the wind would kind of pick you up, your anchors would actually kind of slide in the sand still.
Yeah,
Nobody at the time. I think I had like a 3 pound grapple style anchor, and that thing can't hold you in place at all if the wind's blowing. So, um,
that 10-pound mushroom.
I have an eight now,
Yeah,
specifically because of that trip. But even I don't even really like using it the anchors, to be honest with you, man. I think they're kind of a pain to pull up, and you know, it's just I when you tend to kind of be at the angle you want to fish,
hmm,
you ever feel like you got your anchor out, and I'm like, dude, I can hook a fish, and I think it just go right up underneath that wire, you know,
yeah,
like.
yeah. I worried about that before.
So, but Yeah, Michigan was awesome. We ended up doing the Cut River, which was funny because the guys from Michigan that I talked to, they were like, "Oh, the Cut River isn't anything. It fishes like crap," and it didn't for us. We caught a lot of nice smallmouth. Like me and my buddy had a mini tournament against each other, and we probably caught 30 smallmouth between the two of us.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the biggest went for 18 and 3/4. And this is in a river that we never fished before, like ever in our lives. So, um, and but that goes to kind of that attest what we were talking about with how Ohio fishing is. You know, like we talked to guys from Michigan, like the Cut River's not good, and we fished it, and we're like, it's amazing. You know, like so. Yeah, well, I'm like, these dudes are spoiled. So, you know, and but it's you know, I would say so far my favorite lake, I don't know, it's got to be between, I mean, I can only really say at this point is Dale Hollow, just because that's the lake that I spent a little bit of time, you know, a weekend of fishing there. Douglas Lake, we were just there half a day and that was it, you know, striper fishing and that was it. You know, the rest of the time we were hanging out and at the cabin, and we did zip lining and that sort of thing. But I mean, to be honest with you though, like overall, if I was to pick like somewhere like a destination that I really, really like and I really want to go to, it's got to be somewhere in Tennessee, just where it's warmer, you know. The weather's just, I mean, well, I can't say the weather's more stable because in the Smoky Mountains, dude, it's always cloudy and rainy, it seems, when I'm there. So,
yeah.
And, you know, my buddy always says they don't call it Smoky Mountains for no reason, dude. So expect the rain and expect the clouds and that sort of thing. So, but, you know, just, I think I kind of like that style lake, you know, the dam style lakes like that, because there's a lot of protection, wind protection in a sense.
Yeah, oh yeah.
You know, like when I was up in Michigan, and a lot of those lakes up in Michigan, they're gorgeous. They're clear, they're blue, but they're wide open, dude. So when it gets windy, like when we were on this lake was small, dude, and it had like 3 to 4 foot white cap waves going on, and this thing is small. Like, you know, it's not like Erie or something like that, but it's like shooting up Erie style waves, you know, on a smaller scale.
Kind of like a smaller version of St. Clair or something.
Right, exactly. So, and, you know, which, not to say the fishing's bad, because, you know, places like that are awesome, and the fishing up in Michigan is absolutely awesome, and I'd like to keep trying to do it. It's just, I think I tend to bring really bad luck with me when it comes to fishing, fishing in general. Like, you know, it's like I bring the crappy wind with me everywhere I go. So
dang it, Josh.
It's true, man. I mean, we went on the river trip together, and that microburst hit when you and Justin were on the river, dude. I'm like,
that was crazy.
Like,
yeah,
literally looked like a tornado came out of the trees at us that day. So,
oh yeah, out of nowhere too.
Yeah.
That was crazy. So let's get into the rivers a little bit. You mentioned that river in Michigan. How would you compare that to the lake or the rivers we fish in our area?
Oh, 100 times better. 100 times better overall, clarity wise, cleanliness. It was in the middle of the woods, you know, not down through our little urban, suburban areas, that sort of thing. Yeah, it's just better. It's just better overall in general. More species, like, you know, we were catching bowfin, huge pike, like, you know, I think my buddy caught like a 35 to 40 inch pike out of his kayak out there. And you know, and smallmouth on top of that. You know, we were catching a lot of fish in just about almost every little spot that we thought was good. So it was tiny. Like this river, dude, when it started out was on average a foot to 2 feet deep and clear as gin, and it was sandy. But it curved constantly, and it was really, really shallow, really, really narrow. It was so narrow, Brad. It looked like you could literally jump, land in the middle of the river, and jump again, onto the other bank. Like, so it started out like as this little tiny creek-looking thing,
Yeah, I love that,
and
man.
it stayed relatively narrow like that too, for the most part. But it did get deeper the further into the woods we got, and then the water clarity kind of changed. It went from being clear to like a root beer colored, weird brown color. The only thing I could test to that was there was a lot, because it was going through like an actual like forest. It was from the trees that had been in the water from where they're decomposing. I think they turned the water this brown color, which I
Yeah.
thought would hurt the fishing and like they wouldn't be able to see it. But I was completely dead wrong on that. They can totally see. And we were fishing the hell out of Kayak baits. Like I bought probably 10 packs of them with me, and we ended up having to divvy them all up because we were going through them so quickly because of the pike and the bowfin that have teeth that we were catching. So like you would hook into like a monster fish and then boom, it's gone, because it either ate the Kayak in half, or it snapped your bit at your line, that sort of thing. So we ended up running like low on Kitex and swim bait hooks. It was kind of funny, but they loved it. Like, it didn't matter what color you were throwing at all. So, but you know, I'm gonna like it was a good time, man. And it was kind of cool because it would be like like a foot deep, right? You're laughing because you can stick your hand in the water and touch the bottom.
Yeah.
But then it would hit one of the turns. And mind you, this thing is like a snake. It is constantly turning back on itself. And what was really, really weird was like you would feel like you were like miles ahead of everybody. And I'd be like, hey, Nate. And he'd just be two like switchbacks down from me. And I realized he's only 15 yards from me, actually. But that
Wow.
river turned back on itself so much that,
That's cool.
yeah, it was really, really weird. And I'm like, dude, I've got to slow down, man. I'm like an hour ahead of these guys, and I'm like, let me slow down. And I realize I can see him. I'm like, look over. I'm like, I can see him through the trees, and he's just right there. But he's actually, 6 turns behind me. It was weird. But every time it turned, though, it was kind of cool, Brad, is from where it would hit those bank lines, and it would cause that kind of. So when a river hits a bank line, it'll hit the bank and it tends to barrel.
Undercut.
Yeah, undercut, spin like that. And what it had done is it'd wear out these like holes that would look like they were like 15 feet deep.
Yeah.
And there'd be just fish sitting in each one of these. And which is the same kind of deal that we have in our river systems, but they're so big, or not big. Our rivers aren't big here, but it's at a bigger scale that you visually do not understand what that's like, what you're looking at necessarily. Especially with like the Great Miami River, right? The Great Miami Rivers, and especially on our end of it, on the southern part of it from downtown Dayton down, it winds out, and it kind of just, it is what it is. It's got good places, obviously, but you kind of don't understand how rivers work unless you see it on that kind of smaller scale. It kind of brings it all to focus. And that's kind of where I learned how to really concentrate on working the outside edge of those bank lines where those bends happen.
No,
go ahead.
Those bends, do they have like erosion control riprap like they do on our rivers here in Ohio?
I'm talking about, these things are tiny. This stuff would be like the width of this room, man. Like, that's how small it is. And it'd be just super deep with sticks or big trees sticking out of it. So like, I think if this place gets like significant rainfall, what I'm fishing is like the main channel of it, and it would turn something much more wider, like an actual river, not what looks like your backyard stream. Basically, is what this thing kind of reminded me of.
I'd love to check that out. Sounds really cool.
It is, and we found a lot of good put-in spots and stuff like that. So it's like, it was kind of like Tennessee too. It's in the kind of backwoods, and dude, the mosquitoes
That's my
there.
favorite. Dude.
The mosquitoes there were on a level that I'd never experienced in my life. No matter how much bug spray I put on, I still got eaten alive. Like, I had over 100 where I had smacked my head throughout the day. Dead mosquitoes all over the front part of my hat.
Yeah.
They would find the places to bite you, like underneath my my PFD, like the strip between my belt line and underneath
Yeah.
on my belly, I had probably 100 bites across the front of my stomach.
Oh man.
Yeah, dude, they were
See,
vicious.
I got a crazy story about that on the Great Miami earlier this year. Hold on, when was that? It was the day before Jay and Brian came to Ohio. Me and
Yeah.
Justin went out and fished. I was wearing that Lose sunscreen shirt, and they were biting me through the shirt on the sides of my life jacket. I'm like, how are they doing this?
Yeah.
It just drove me nuts. I got home and I had like red dots all over my body.
Yeah,
So,
I'm gonna look into getting that stuff that you wash your clothes in that is like that, see if that makes a difference because I don't like messing with DEET. It works really, really well, but at the same time, it's very, very damaging to things that are plastic. And most of everything that we are messing with kayak fishing wise and fishing in general is plastic.
yeah.
Like DEET, like it really reacts bad with anything plastic. So I'd like to try that stuff out. Yeah, dude, that's how it was when we were in Michigan, man. Like it was biting through your shirt, biting through your hat, like biting through everything, dude. Like your pants, like it was insane. So, but yeah.
Those things are crazy.
So, all right, well, let's kind of concentrate. Let's get you talking some about some of your places, man. Like, what was your what's your favorite place to fish,
My
or this year, whatever?
my favorite place to fish this year.
Mm-hmm.
Do you want to start out of state or in Ohio?
Talk wherever you want. Like,
Well, I talked
do your
about
favorite out of state, and then we'll talk about what you like the most about in state this year.
well, I kind of already talked about Dale Hollow. I don't think there's really much else to say about that.
Yeah.
I just, like I said, it's a good lake. But I guess I can talk about like a lake near us that I enjoy. I just want to really figure it out because I feel like it's kind of hard to figure out. But that lake is Paint Creek. Have you ever been
Yeah.
there?
I have not.
You would like it. It kind of reminds me of those Tennessee lakes. It has those rock ledges and all these deep, like, deep drop offs and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Trying to remember the coves. Coves are beautiful. You go in there, it's like rock walls. I came across a cove that I went all the way back in there, came across water coming down out of the rock wall, like just trickling down this wall, and then there was a little tiny waterfall coming into the lake. And
Right.
I just sat back in there for like 20 minutes. It's like, I'm going to chill back here. This is awesome. It was in the shade. It was probably like 90 degrees that day, and it was just like peaceful. It was awesome. So that was cool. I really think that lake's one of the more beautiful lakes in Ohio, but the fishing is tough.
Yeah.
I
Is
don't
it
have
pressured real bad?
I believe it is. That and Rocky Fork, they're within like 10, 15 minutes from each other. So
Yeah.
I think they both get pressured pretty hard. But I think people fish that lake for crappie more than anything.
Yeah.
I know the past year, the Cincinnati Kayak Fishing Trail, they had that tournament out there. I pre-fished for that tournament twice. I didn't do well, so I was like, I don't feel like donating my money for this, so I didn't do the tournament.
Oh, really?
But, yeah. I went out there. I did catch fish, but they were all, like tiny fish. They wouldn't have won me anything,
Yeah.
I feel like there's some big fish there. There's some islands you can fish. Right off those islands, it's like instant drop off. It's really rocky. I don't recall coming across any grass, but what I do remember is the trip that I went out there with me. It was Zach Carell and John Graves earlier in June, and I was fishing like these little cuts off of the main lake. They weren't really necessarily coves, but full of wood, just pushed up against the bank. And I was getting hits on chatterbaits back there. And those fish right in there were probably about 15-inch range. So
Yeah.
that was fun. That was real fun. That was
I'd like to check that lake out. I've heard it's really, nice and scenic out there, and
oh man. I will say the other thing. I got a picture on my Facebook if anybody wants to see it. It's in my fishing 2019 photo album. But I got a picture of me. I beached on a rock right in the middle of the lake, and I stood on this big rock. It's just like a big. I can't really explain it. Big flat rock on the top you can stand on, and all around it, it just drops down to 20 feet. So
Yeah.
I've never seen that on a lake.
Yeah, that was a cool picture you did too.
Shout out to Justin for that.
Justin Marshall, photo cred.
Yep. But man, beautiful lake, and I've only fished a fraction of that. I'd like to go up towards the headwaters and into the creeks, because Rattlesnake Creek comes in and then Paint Creek comes in.
Yeah.
I'd like to go up even further into those creeks and fish all that, which is where I keep hearing that some of the better fishing is.
Right.
So I know there's ramps closer to those creeks. So I think next time I want to go, I want to park at those ramps up there and fish those creeks.
Let's do it.
Yeah,
I'm down.
And now that I have the Garmin with the lake maps, I'll be able to find those submerged bridges that I see on Navionics.
Yeah.
I passed over one day. I was out there. But I didn't know what it was, so
yeah.
I didn't fish it. That about 20 feet deep. There's a bunch of submerged bridges in that lake and roadbeds.
Yeah.
Bunch of
You'll love side vision, man. Wait, gee, when you get that put on your boat, dude, you're gonna be like, oh, like I think you're a good angler, anyways. I think that your fishing is going to kind of take a couple of really big steps forward, because you kind of understand it more than like what I do already, and you don't even have it. So like when I say that, I mean like how you can kind of interpret topography and that sort of thing and translate it to what you're looking at water-wise in front of you, and you're going to be like, oh, well, I already know the topography type stuff, but dude, check that out. You're going to be able to know that this is over to your left or your right. You're going to be able to see the road beds. And, like I told you, like in Kaiser, like, when I finally saw that one, I was like, oh, that's awesome. We'll have to mess around with you. We got to check your settings and everything though, because your settings are probably going to be way off when you get it hooked up. They're usually the auto stuff is meant more for boats. So it's pinging a lot faster than what it should.
You got to turn that down a little bit.
Yeah. So, but dude, you're going to love it. You're going to be like, you'll see what the hype's all about. Even when you don't even have like super good, like side vision, like, like how they've got the really clear ones, like just even regular side view is pretty badass. So.
Yeah. Oh, I'm excited, dude. So, I don't know if I'm going to fish any KBF events, but if I do, everybody watch out. I'm coming.
Yeah. Here comes Brad with a side vision.
Oh no! No,
you're gonna go from being Brad Sticks Hicks to Brad Side Vision Hicks, and we'll just make you like look cross-eyed at everybody all the time.
Kind of like this.
Yeah, that's Brad Side Vision.
If you're listening to this, go to the YouTube and scroll to the 47-minute mark. You'll see my crazy face.
Hi, I'm Brad. I finally can see structure.
That's awesome. No, I'm excited, dude. Once spring rolls around, we need to make a trip up to Kaiser and find that submerged bridge, because I'm interested. It's interesting to me.
You don't know where it is?
Well, I know it's like near the bait shop and the campgrounds, but I don't know anywhere other than that.
The submerged what?
The submerged bridge.
Oh, there's one at, did you say in Kaiser or Paint Creek?
There's one at Kaiser too.
Is it really? I didn't know that. I found the road bed. That's where I got excited when I finally saw that road bed in there. But of course, I'm like, oh, look, there's fish on it. No, I can't get any of them to bite. And then they all just disappear for some reason.
It's probably more of like a culvert type bridge, because I can't imagine it being like a really big bridge.
Yeah.
10 feet of water.
Right.
But it shows up on Navionics on a Kaiser Lakes map, so
yeah,
I want to find it and check it out. Talk about some rivers locally here. We'll wind down here after this, but let's talk about some local rivers.
So This
Great.
year, well, let's talk about our rivers. Let's name them off. Well, we have in our immediate area that me and Brad hit. We both live. Brad and I actually live in Dayton, Ohio. We live 5 minutes away from each other. So our main river systems that we hit are the Great Miami River, the Little Miami River, the Mad River, Stillwater River, and what else?
Um,
Is that it? That's usually you're gonna catch us if we're on the river. It's gonna usually be one of those four
yeah.
for the most part. I did not. I fish creek. I'll fish creeks sometimes. The smaller feeder creeks here, especially in the springtime when the water gets real high, and I know that there's the potential for the bass to move kind of a good distance into creeks into our creeks, and but as far as the kayaks, I tend not to get them out because it tends to be really kind of narrow,
Hmm.
a little too narrow, and there's not a lot of put in takeout spots, I guess you could say, in those creeks for the most part. And when I say creeks, I mean like the small creeks, like
Twin
you
Creek
know,
or
like
something.
no, even smaller. Twin Creek,
Smaller?
you can almost call it like a river, like because
Yeah. Well. Yeah.
like especially the end of it. But I mean like Clear Creek and that sort of thing. The
Oh
small.
yeah. Yeah.
I like getting into those when the water's high because especially Clear Creek. Clear Creek's kind of fun because it clears out real fast.
I was about to
And
say they go down quick too.
yeah, they'll go down quick, but they'll actually. I mean, if you think about it, it's where the initial flooding kind of starts. You
Yeah.
know,
And they
and
heat and cool quicker.
yeah, but I spent some time fishing creeks like that this year because our rivers were so in such bad shape for so long. So,
Hmm.
but I don't know. I think that's for the most part our main four in our general area that you'll find one of us in. So, Brad, I mean, I already know the answer to this. I don't even know why I'm asking it. But what did you fish this year, and what was your favorite and why?
I fished 3 rivers this year. Um, that was the Great Miami, the Little Miami, and the Mad River, which I've only floated the Mad River twice ever, even though it's 15 minutes away. It's a faster river. It's not as deep as the Great Miami. Uh, that alone right there kind of like deters me from it. I know there's probably some amazing fishing there. It's not as pressured as much, but that river is hard to fish because it's so fast.
Yeah.
And I fished the same stretch both times I fished it, but the it's kind of hard to pick which one I like most between the Great Miami and the Little Miami because the Little Miami River is so scenic, and you can get into the numbers like way more than the Great Miami River. But the Great Miami River is going to have the bigger fish. So
Yeah.
it's kind of hard for me to pick. I don't get into well, I take that back. This year I got into the numbers. Me and Justin got into the numbers more this year than we have any other year previous, and I'm not sure if that's because we learned more and we covered more water this year or what. But Little Miami, I usually kill it, no problems. That is more like I'll throw top water on the Little Miami all day long, all
Right.
year long, and it seems like they just eat it up. I'll throw that same top water on the Great Miami, and I don't do as well. I don't know if that's because the depth difference or the water clarity. I'm thinking it's more water clarity than anything, but
Yeah.
I'm going to have to go with Great Miami. It's what I fish the most. It's right here near me. The Little Miami, like the closest part near me is the Xenia area, which is 25 minutes away. That section of the river is really hard to navigate. I don't know if you floated that or not. Have you?
Oh yeah. Well, no, I've
Lots of
not
log
floated
jams.
it, but I have wade fished that area. And from the time that I've started fishing, which has been about let's say 2014, when I kind of 14 was when I started wade fishing for smallmouth in the rivers.
Mm-hmm.
That whole section through Beaver Creek and everything has gotten destroyed from flooding, and that's why
tornado.
it's yeah, and that's why it's as bad a shape as what you're describing navigation wise. How much trees they've had fallen out of the norm, kind of thing. So,
Oh yeah,
I remember going to, you know where Treebine Road is.
yeah. That's
There's
where
like
we started to
yeah,
float there, downstream
yeah.
from Treebine.
Yeah. So like, dude, it's insane down there. Like it's just so much junk in the water. It's kind of scary a little bit actually, you know, because it's like you come across some of this stuff and you're like, dude, how do we get around this? Because it's the banks are so high up too.
Yep.
Like it's not like you can get out. You know what I
So
mean?
we floated from Treebine down to Bellbrook, and for the
Yeah.
first mile and a half maybe, we portaged 4 times because of log jams.
Mhm.
And we had to carry 3 kayaks through like nettles
Yeah.
and all this crap for quarter mile maybe. Oh, it was ridiculous. Like
Yeah.
I wouldn't suggest floating that river until, you know, getting near the Narrows and then going
Yeah.
south from there.
Yeah.
I fished, basically I fished from Xenia all the way to Loveland on that river. So everything down from the Narrows is good to go.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel bad
Yeah.
for the
Once you
guy
get
we
past
went.
the narrows.
Yeah, I felt bad for the guy we went with because he wore shorts and he's stinging nettles all over his legs. I had my wading pants on.
Yeah.
It was bad.
And even then, they still go through those pants. So,
Yeah.
I mean, I obviously feel the same exact way you do about the GMR versus the LMR. LMR is, it's kind of like if you want to go fishing and have an experience, the Little Miami's where it's at. If you want to go fishing and catch a big fish, go to the Great Miami River. I've done well on the MAD this year. I didn't hit the MAD in a lot of areas this year. I hit kind of actually one kind of specific area that I had wade fished previously and had some mixed success. And I had like a really good 1 or 2 days out here. And one of them happened to land on a tournament, and it was that weekend long Buckeye tournament. I can't remember what it was called. I want to say
the
the
spring
Memorial
fling?
Day. Maybe it was the Memorial Day weekend
Oh, that's
one.
yeah,
It was-
that's the month you killed it for KBF Monthly.
No, this one was
I
different.
thought it was.
No. Eh, I can't remember Brad offhand. Maybe it was, but I want to say that I don't know if they ran in conjunction. That's what I don't remember, if they ran in conjunction with each other, that KBF Monthly or not. I thought I did the KBF Monthly separate, but who cares? But I spent that weekend was kind of fun and frustrating at the same time. So I spent all weekend fishing, and I fished 3 different rivers.
Mm-hmm.
And what's funny is I'm fishing against guys that are in lakes that know where they're going, where the big fish are, you know, and I'm sitting there like, well, I'm going to fish the rivers and I'm going to go where I think there might be fish, you know. And I actually did kind of well in the one tournament. The one tournament, or the one day that I was out there that I had significant amount of time, he ended up, yeah, it was the Memorial Day weekend stuff, dude,
Yeah.
because that's when the tornadoes happened and I was trying to finish
Yeah.
up. Yeah, so that Sunday. So I started out fishing. I fished the MAD, the Little Miami at a point, and then the Great Miami River.
Mm-hmm.
And insanity that weekend. You know, and just to top that weekend off, I finished up fishing literally while that tornado was blowing through North Dayton. So, but you know, like Mad River it is like you said, it runs colder. It's spring fed. Well, Little Miami's spring fed also, but Mad River has some good constant like elevation change happening. So that's why you see the speed at which it runs.
Mm-hmm.
I've wade fished there and kind of gotten not in trouble, but had some areas that I'm like, you know, not the smartest wade trying to cross all the way across in some deeper water and stuff, but It is it floods easily, but
Mhm.
clears easy.
Yeah.
So like we've had like significant rain and you're like, oh, the river's gonna mess up, check the Mad River first if you really want to get on get on the river. And
It's more like a creek.
yeah, it
Vast
runs,
creek.
it'll run clear quickly. I've
Yeah.
been on there though, man, when the water starts to rise, and it's a little scary, dude. I got into this area where I found like the river and actually split and kind of went. It kind of goes far away from itself, not far, but far enough that it's not just like an island. You know what I'm thinking? You know where I'm talking about? How we have
Mhm.
a lot of in our rivers, we have those little small, narrow islands you can call them,
Yeah.
where the river splits and then comes back together around them. This is actually where the river kind of takes off a little bit away from itself and it causes this island, if you want to call it, and it's a couple, maybe 100 yards wide. It's really weird. But I've caught a bunch of fish up in that because it was during the time, I think it was like either it might have been pre-spawn or post-spawn, just post-spawn, but it was when all of our rivers were really bad, in the spring, as we've talked about 1,000 times, with it being as bad as it was. And it was in off of that because the water was slow back there.
Mhm.
And it's where it kind of met back up and basically caused a big giant current seam right where it came back together. And there was fish stacked up like crazy that weekend back there, and I was catching huge rock bass while I was catching some decent smallmouth too back there, and it was a lot of fun, man. Like, I happened to come across some like really good days, like
Mhm.
overall, like, was it a spectacular fishing season for me? I wouldn't say it was anything above or below what I've had happen in the past, but you know, it's kind of when I look at how we kind of fish, especially because we both work. We don't fish for our jobs. We don't. I'm not. I don't have the opportunity to go to some different body of water every single day, so we can take what we can get kind of days. Like, so we're gonna tend to have those days where you're like, you just can't catch squat, and it's kind of
Yeah.
frustrating because you're like, man, like it makes you want to go to the places like our GMR spots or our Little Miami spots or our river spots and not go waste time at these lakes around here because we know where we can go catch some awesome smallmouth potentially at any time of the year.
Yep.
And it's like, well, do I do that or do I go explore something different, possibly don't catch squat? You know what I mean? And that's what makes it hard for us
Yeah.
to decide, like overall, like, we can make it. If we had the opportunity to change, like, or be able to fish a lot of places and just cancel out water all the time and be like, yeah,
Mhm.
well, that part sucks, but that part's good over here. It could change our complete outlook of how Ohio fishes. You
Oh
know what I
yeah.
mean? Um, but I don't know. It's the GMR it's a good spot. Little Miami is beautiful spot, and Mad River has its ups and downs. So, what is you think then? Obviously, you said the GMR is probably your favorite river to kind of. What would you say is your favorite lake?
My favorite lake in Ohio?
Yeah, yeah,
Well, if you would have asked me 5 years ago, I would have said without hesitation it's Kaiser
yeah,
because back then the weeds weren't as bad and the lily pads were more abundant, I guess you would say.
yeah.
But I did hear that they dredged the lake this year, late in the season. So I'm kind of curious to get back there and check it out.
And see what it's like.
Yeah,
If it made, a lot of people are saying it made it worse. I've
I
heard.
could see that. I don't know the fit probably shock the fish and they don't know where to go. So
Yeah, I think
yeah, I'm
that
not
place
sure.
is always going to have some difficulty. And when I say difficulty, I mean like control as far as people pulling bass out of it.
Yeah,
It runs on a slot limit, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, and when you run a slot limit, it's supposed to what kind of it's supposed to help promote like trophy style fish. It's supposed to
Yeah.
keep more fish there. But the problem is that if you don't have anybody out there, you're not actively really kind of cracking down on poaching, you'll
Yeah.
never get that. It doesn't matter what the slot limit crap that they want to do is going to work or not. The other problem with that lake is that it's so shallow, it heats up, it gets
Mm.
hot,
Oh yeah.
and it is literally surrounded by farmland. That is it.
Yep.
There's no woods in that kind of, I mean, there's a little bit of trees here and there, but for the most part, 99% of everything around Kaiser Lake is farmland, and that's not gonna ever help it. That's why that place has algae blooms consistent every year, year in and year out. Um,
Yeah.
it makes me wonder if that, like my little boy got sick from that lake, like
Yeah.
because he got sick the following week or week and a half after I had taken him out there, and it was in October, so and we were still wearing shorts, and that was I think that year was the year it was not this past October, the year before, where it stayed warm all the way through like September and October that year, like pretty far. So
Yeah. So like I said, 5 years ago, you would have
you,
asked me, I would have said Kaiser. I caught my personal best 21 out of there.
yeah,
But I think now, like you guys give me crap about it, but I think Kaiser's like, or not Kaiser, Callan Lake's like starting to boom a little bit. Like I don't ever remember Callan Lake being as good as it is right now.
yeah,
That lake is on the rise. I'm telling you. I've caught more bigger fish the last 2 years there than I have like the previous years growing up fishing there. So
that's awesome.
that lake is definitely on the rise. It's cool to see. Like I never noticed the grass around the edges and stuff, like the 5-6 foot range. I never noticed that grass, so I started throwing those chatterbaits in that grass and catching big fish, man. So
Heck yeah,
I'd
yeah,
have to
dude.
say that's my favorite lake right now. I mean, even though I talk crap about
Yeah,
it.
you do. Brad, we spent hearing Brad first half of the season. Brad's like, I hate Cowan. I hate Cowan. I won a tournament there. I hate it. I hate it. And then we're like,
I
we're
think
gonna nickname it after you, dude. But yeah, I wouldn't be able to tell. I wouldn't be able to say that I agree with you or disagree with you in regards to that because I have never really fished even the lakes in our area very frequently, and this is like the first time. I this year was the first time I concentrate on it. So like I had fished Cowan Lake as a kid, like maybe a handful of times, younger, like in my teenage days and stuff like that, joking around. But this year's my first like serious year of targeting bass and lakes, outside of the river systems, besides fooling around at or at Kaiser. So
yeah, there's a few other lakes in the area that well, they're not in the area, but they're like hour and a half away that I still want to try. Deer Creek, Hoover, stuff like that. Alum Creek. There's a few up near Columbus I want to try.
I think we should hit up some spots in Kentucky too. Um,
Oh yeah,
like
Kentucky's great.
especially the eastern side of Kentucky. I think there's one called, oh gosh, what was it?
Well, did you hear about?
It's Jay Wallen's home lake.
Sure,
I,
that's Eastern or Western.
I want to say it's eastern Kentucky side. Let me look it up real quick.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Uh, did you see the Cincinnati Kayak Fishing Trail schedule this year?
I did. I did.
They got some cool lakes that I've never been like. Yeah, some cool lakes that I've never been to. So it's gonna give me an incentive to focus on that trail next year. They got Kincaid Lake in Kentucky, Brookville Lake in Indiana. I'm gonna hit that. I can't remember off the top of my head the other one that I'm excited for, but it's an Ohio lake, and I'm like, cool, man. I definitely want to try that out.
Yeah. Oh man, where is it?
Eastern part of Kentucky. I'm not familiar with that. It's probably near Lexington, I'm guessing.
It's Cave Run. You go ahead and keep talking, man. Let me find it.
Cave Run is near Louisville, I think. Maybe. I'm not 100%. I've been there, though. Just don't remember it because I was younger. But I don't know. I'm excited for that schedule. I don't know how excited you are for it.
Yeah, I don't really. I mean, no, I'm not. No, I'm sorry. That sounded shitty. Or crappy. Sorry.
He's focused on his phone right now.
Yeah. I didn't mean it to sound like that. It's not that. I don't really plan on fishing much tournament wise this year. I don't. The reason being is because of the paddle and fin kind of stuff that we have planned in the works. So I'm gonna have to kind of watch what I do vacation wise. I will definitely try to. I want to really try it. This isn't Jay's home lake, but Laurel River Lake. It's kind of like a North style or Dale Hollow
Okay.
lake. It's really really pretty. I can't find it anywhere now, dude. This is annoying me. But so yeah, it tournament wise, I don't know, man. To be honest with you, here's what I want to do. I'm not going to really freak out tournament wise. I'm not going to try to make it a point to hit up any KBF or even any of our local stuff. I want to go do a couple tournaments here and there, that sort of thing. But I actually, once I get my butt in this boat, a pedal drive is where I'm going to make an attempt to get up to places and fish like St. Clair. I'm not going to go waste my time and money to go enter that tournament until I can actually gain some knowledge of what I'm doing out there. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, and the reason being is because the way some people get tournament wise, I don't want to step on anybody's toes or anybody's way when I have no idea what I'm doing. So, you know what I mean? That's it. It's just kind of out of respect. You know what I mean? I don't want to be out there getting in somebody's way, getting somebody all bent out of shape, you know, that sort of thing. Cause I'm not up to par with whatever tournament standards or like, you know, what's the word I'm looking for? You know, just what kind of manners to have, or you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like the etiquette's what I'm looking for. That sort of thing. So, you know, and it's not that I necessarily care about trying to be competitive. It's just I don't want to go drop coin on something like that until I just have kind of some knowledge of what I'm doing out there. You know, there's no reason for me to do it. It's just a waste of money at that time. You know, I know it's the camaraderie thing, camping, hanging out, but at the same time, I have 2 kids here at home that I got to take care of. So it's like, if I would rather have, like, when we start planning out our trips this year, like, you know, if we're going to go up to Michigan, have everybody meet, that's going to be more fun for me to do. I can save my time for that and my money for that sort of thing. You know what I mean? So that's kind of how I'm looking at it this year. Like, so I've really been paying attention, to be honest with you, with too much of the overall schedules. So
yeah, that's all good, man. We're gonna have fun next year.
I'm looking forward to it. I think it's gonna be a blast.
I am too. We got some big stuff planned. So, all right, cool, man. We can wind this down. We're already at a minute or an hour and 15.
Are we? Dang, dude. We're just sorry. I blabbed a lot tonight.
No, dude, you're all good.
Funny. So I kind of had the feeling I'd go into this being quiet, and I think I talked way more than you did.
You can talk about your bodies of water. I enjoy it too.
You talk about my body. Is that what you said? You're so weird, Brad.
Weird, Brad. All right. Well, let's end this. Everybody, thanks for listening. We'll be back next Thursday. Not sure what we got planned yet, but
my side vision's working.
Yeah, check out the side vision on our YouTube. You'll get a laugh out of it. But yeah, we'll see you guys next week. Thanks for listening, and have a good rest of the week.
Tight lines and smooth paddling.
Bye-bye.
Do you love our podcast and want to help support us even more? Well, now you can. You can simply go to patreon.com/paddle, the letter N, fin, or you can also go to anchor.fm/paddle, the letter N, fin.